motivated. It was just a feeling of obligation in a way, right? It's like you hear my parents, left their cities and their country, right? Left all their family behind to give us a better life. Myself and my four siblings. So they gave up a lot, and it was a huge sacrifice, and probably a sacrifice that I will never know, and most people will never know, right? But they did it. They did it for us. So it was a sense of obligation. And then, back then it was still, this country has also given me a lot of opportunity, despite, today's reality, right? I was able to go to school. I had a good job. Eventually I became legal, and, I had means, right? I had means to move above the social and economic ladder. And, so I felt they had given me a lot when I looked around and the folks that I grew up with, didn't, right? And for whatever reason, they didn't have the same opportunities, so didn't capture them. So I felt, again, an obligation to give back, right? So combined, these two obligations eventually led to ELAC and to a kind of professional life that has been pretty, 100% either nonprofit or government, both of which are basically service to low-income families, right? So that was my way of paying them back and honoring my parents too, right? So that's how ELAC came to be, right? That was kind of the intangible driver to founding ELAC with myself and Maria and the rest of the group. So it was about that search, right? About, okay, what do I do, and how do I create change, and how do I line up my stars, right? Where I'm able to give back, but at the same time able to, make a living, able to have impact, able to have change, raise kids and pay the mortgage. How do I do that? All of it, right? And it's a less of a struggle now, but it was certainly a struggle at the beginning. But the vision remains the same, right? It's a matter of kind of balancing everything and lining up my stars, as I call them. So that's kind of more at a personal level, right? It's like you make decisions based on that, and then hope for the best, and things have turned out okay. I think now. Any questions on that? Because I'm going to switch over to the organization.
Well, I actually wasn't prepared for you to divulge. I was like totally. I do have questions. Do you want to do this more formally, where I come with my questions, or how would you feel?
You know what? It's up to you. You know what? Let this be an intro.
Okay.
And if you want me to come back, and talk again after you come up with questions, more than happy to do it.
Okay.
Right?
I really appreciate that. Yeah.
Okay. That way you don't have to remember everything, right? And always come back.
Okay.
Okay. So now the organization, right? It's like, okay, an organization in a way is kind of like a human being, right? What does the organization do? And in the same way that a person like myself, right? Actually, it's personified by the people that operate it, right? The leadership that operate.
Mm-hmm.
And ELAC has been just that, right? It has been like the manifestation of the people that operate it. And luckily, it's been, the leadership has been one that is really focused on change. That's how it was formed. But, and it also has to align its stars, right? It's got to have change or create change, but at the same time, it's got to make sure that it grows and it strengthens, and that it has the ability to sustain change and have more change over time. Mm-hmm. Because, to be honest, the needs that our community faces are not going away anytime soon, and in fact, they're getting greater and greater. Right? So, as an organization, I'm thinking, we got to be able to do more, not less, more, right? So it's how do you balance that? How do you balance this desire to impact more people, but at the same time, create stability for itself, not for its own gain, but rather basically to have more change. That's the challenge of all nonprofits, right? And I think ELAC had it right, had the right vision, and for a long time, it was able to balance those stars. And so that in that way, the way we do that and the way it's been done, it's really not taking like extreme positions in some cases, right? And being thoughtful about how to generate income for its impact purposes. But and then being really really frugal with its money, but being also really innovative and creative with the way where it seeks to establish find resources, and that's worked, right? For the most part, it's worked really well. So I think and this is kind of the third one, right? I think where we went wrong over the course of the last few months or years actually has been this kind of the stars became misaligned in my opinion, right? Yeah. Where there was this an undeniable, and I would say, you can't blame this huge drive to create even more change, right? We got into every fight, we got into every issue, we tried to correct everything and be part of all kinds of change in the neighborhood, but we didn't keep our eye on the other side, which is, how do we fund for all this? How do we pay for people to do this work, right? And while on one hand we were doing a lot of positive damage, right? We were basically eating up all our reserves, and didn't focus enough on how do we keep that work going. So when issues came up, we said, yeah, let's do them. And there was never any we don't have enough bandwidth, right? So this is my analysis of what happened. We basically started, we took on programs, they weren't self-sufficient, and when they weren't self-sufficient, instead of letting people go fast enough or ending the program, we would dip into our reserve. And it happened for 5 years. And at the end, the reserves just were gone, were depleted.
Oh, wow.
So that's what happened. Yeah. That's my sense, right? Because these programs certainly were not generating surplus income to increase the reserves. Yeah. They were actually the opposite. I mean, nobody stole any money, right? Nothing like that. It was more like we were just super, ultra, hyper committed to changing, right? Changing this community. And we had a good run, but eventually that money ran out.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my analysis, right? And that was the third thing that I wanted to mention to you. So it goes back to, again, realigning the stars, right? And okay, we gotta go back and make sure everything's balanced. Yes, we need to have change and more of it, as far as I'm concerned, right? Mm-hmm. But we got to do it in a way that is self-sustaining. And I keep coming back and telling people that, it's good that we go out there and help people, right? We have the money today to support, let's say, street vendors, right? Mm-hmm. Or small merchants on First Street. But if that money runs out, then there's no more support to them.
Right.
But the need's still there, right? They're going to go say, what the hell, right? I still need you to help me. Or the next vendor still needs help. So how does that talk about the organization, right? We just can't keep our commitments. So moving forward, I think we need to avoid that. I strongly believe we need to avoid that. I think, so what I've done is I've trimmed down our programmatic scope temporarily and focus on those programs that I know can be self-sufficient because they generate income. They still need some fine-tuning and they need to become more efficient, but by their nature, they can sustain themselves. Mm-hmm. And then think of how to create self-sustainability models for those programs that can't, that won't, right? And specifically community organizing. I think I can't think of a model, and I think people have tried over the decades, right?